Hello and welcome to the Solar Power Hour. We're back for another hour of solar education, and thanks for joining us this week. If you would, just check us out on the Solar Power Hour on Facebook, or check us out on our website at thesolarpowerhour.solar, or call us anytime at 888-337-0937. Ask any questions. We look forward to having your input and questions on here, because the reason that we're doing this every week is to educate you, the consumer, and just get to where you can feel confident having a conversation with somebody in your house about purchasing solar and going forward. So this format it's fun, it's open, and we look forward to having people ask questions. I've got quite a few questions this week from people getting online. They got onto our website, submitted a form. It's so easy. It doesn't cost too much money. Actually, it's free. So get on there and ask a question anytime. And again, you can call us anytime at that number, 888-337-0937. So one thing, I hate putting a date stamp on our podcast. I hate putting a point in there where it's a reference in time. I like to keep it a fluid, and so you don't know when you're watching it, and make sure that it's got some neat information in there. However, I do want to address a couple things. We just watched the president talk about the coronavirus this week. We've seen where the NBA has actually suspended the season. We're talking about having the NCAA tournament, the March Madness, played without fans in the stadiums. This is a big deal. There's a lot of reactions about this, and I got to be honest with you, I'm not a professional by any means. I don't know much about this pandemic that's going around, but I do know that it's just gripping the country and putting a lot of people in fear. Whether you're on the side of you're scared to death staying home, and I get it. I get both sides. I get the other side as well, that they're like, listen, I've got a pretty strong immune system. I'm not too concerned. Whichever side you're on, what I'd really suggest, if you're nervous about having somebody come out and talk to you about solar, there are so many other options. But what I want to stress to you is don't let this small blip in our history make any kind of dictation to you whether you're going to go with solar or not, because the only time that you're going to stop paying for solar is when you pass away, sadly. So don't worry about that. You still need to consider about going, solar if you're going to. If it's a good fit for you, that's great. I'm not here to push it on you, but I'm here to educate you on the process, and hopefully it works out for you. But what I would suggest is, if you're nervous about having somebody come out to your house, or if you're not liking having somebody come out to your house, have a phone consultation. Talk to them over the phone. Don't even have them come out to your house. Do a FaceTime. But I would suggest, especially if we ever get through this pandemic and everybody's back to normal and all that stuff, and the worry goes down, I still strongly urge you to meet somebody face to face. There's nothing like meeting somebody face to face, knowing what they're like, seeing what they're, how they interact with you and your family and your house and all that stuff, and understanding when you ask them questions, are they authentic in their responses and so on. So I would strongly urge you to still meet face to face. Maybe not during this time. Maybe go on FaceTime. Go on a phone call. Do an email consultation. We offer those. Have been doing that for years. There are still people, whether there's a pandemic going on or not, that don't want to meet people face to face, and they just don't want to have people at their house. And I get that. It's just different personalities. Some people are more introverted, and some people are more extroverted. It doesn't matter. If you still may want solar in your house, and you can get it either way, however you want to do it. So you can meet with people face to face or not, but don't let this discourage you from getting solar. We're still putting solar in every day. As my solar company that I have, we're still putting solar in every day. So. Haven't had anybody yet ask us to do phone consultations, but we certainly can provide those, and it's pretty easy to do. So I do want to give a shout out. We're doing this podcast every week, and I do want to say that we're on WeBeamTV.com. So check us out on WeBeamTV.com. It's a great setup. You can watch us from your computer anywhere. We're live Mondays at noon, and then you can watch us from any of our other shows from the past. So you can check us out anytime. It's a great format. I love this place. They treat us great here, so it's a great forum to be out there. So you can watch us. Maybe you watch us one time, you'd rather listen after you see me. That's fine. I get it. Well, we do have some questions this week. We got quite a few, and then we are going to go through and talk a little bit about sizing and so on. So we have a great show. Looking forward to doing this one. But the first question I have on here, somebody put on our website, is what are the modules that are behind you, and where are they made, and is that what modules always look like? And that's a great question. So we have two modules behind us, so you can see, and for those of you in the podcast, you won't be able to see them, but check us out on WeBeamTV.com, you'll be able to see it. So you got two different modules. The mill finish one is a module that's made in Riviera Beach, Florida. It's actually a Solartech Universal, and I'm not putting a plug in for anybody. I just happen to conveniently have one as a display. But it's it's a demo that they gave us. We use that at home shows. We proudly support anything local. Like, there's different manufacturers throughout the country. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Texas and Colorado and some other states later. But each state, not every state has manufacturing in it. So I'm going to say that right now. Not all states are manufacturing solar panels. So we'd have 60 to 100 different manufacturers throughout the country. We don't have that many. We have a few. Both of these are made in North America. Both of these are made in the United States. So the mill finish one, which is the silver we talked about last week, with the white back sheet. So there's a little bit of white on the back behind the cells. So it's got a white background, so it's called a white back sheet. So that's black on white, the black cells on the white. And that panel, like I said, is made in Riviera Beach. It's a great module. They have a smart wire technology. So if we ever go on their website, it's a Solartech Universal. And again, you guys owe me a plug for your modules if you're watching this. So I'll talk to you about that later. But no, it's a great module. And it's one of the few that I really support when it talks about wind load in Florida. When you get down to Miami-Dade County, you start talking about what modules, and you talk about sizing of modules and wattage and all that stuff. One of the things that people don't really think about, and this panel that covers it very well, is the strength of the uplift of high wind ratings. Also, you got to consider the snow loads too. So not every module is going to fit every climate. Some modules are made very strong, like structurally strong, and those are the ones that will handle the snow load and the wind loads and all that kind of stuff. This panel's got a very thick frame on it. It's a very strong module. I do like the module a lot. The other one, the solid black, that's a black on black. Actually, it's a black on black on black, if I will. It's got a black frame, black back sheet, and it's black cells. So it's a BBB is what they call it, is a black on black on black. That module actually is made in North America as well. It's actually, most of them are made in Canada. It's a SILFAB module. We're very fond of that module. It comes with, it's one of the few modules out there that come with a 30-year production warranty. And to be honest with you, I don't know why more modules don't come out with a longer warranty. A lot of them's warranty production for 25 years. This one comes out with a 30-year warranty. It's not astoundingly, that much stronger of a warranty through the 25 years, but they extended it to 30, which a lot of other modules aren't doing, and they probably could. These modules last 40 plus years. They go out there, and we got some in space that are lasting 40 years. We put them up there in the 70s, and they're still out there. So you can see that module there. That's the, if you're watching this on TV, that's the SILFAB module. That's made in Washington State and in Canada. So it's made in North America. We typically like to carry North American products. I will say that there are some products out there that are not made in the United States. Still a great product. We have installed Chinese panels. We have installed Korean modules. We have installed German modules. We've installed modules from a lot of different places, a lot of different manufacturers. And to be honest with you, I really, for what you pay, you get what you pay for in the regards of production. But we've only had, we've got thousands of installs and hundreds of thousands of modules installed. And I can only remember 6 modules that have quit working. We've got inverters that quit working. The inverter does a lot more work daily, if you will, because the module just literally sits there and produces power, shoves it out the wires. The wires then go into an inverter. The inverter changes it from DC to AC. And they can be either on, every module can have one, so it can be a microinverter. It could be going from DC to AC as soon as you come out of there, and then all your wiring is AC. It's a little safer in the house, arguably. I mean, depends on how, it's not unsafe to have DC wiring going through your house, but, and then you have other inverters as well. The inverters actually do a lot more work. So the modules, 25-year warranty, it's really not that big a deal, 25, and then they bumped it up to 30 on the SILFAB. So these 2 modules behind us, made in North America. Ironically, I didn't pick that in intentionally. I didn't say that we only support North American modules, but I just happen to have those in our shop when I came down here and set up for the first time for the podcast. We have other modules as well, but I really strongly urge you to. I like North American modules. I like modules that are going to be there for a long time. For bankability, you've got some great modules out there. You got Panasonic, you got LG. I do like the SILFAB. I do like the Solartech Universals. There's some very strong modules. And again, I'm not I'm not plugging any particular module over another one. I'm going to try and get some manufacturers on here at some point in time to talk to us about them. But great modules, both of these, and that's a great question. So yeah, this is typically what they look like. Most of them in this world, or in the United States now, are black modules. There's a poly module out there. It's got a blue hue to it, blue tint to it. It's made from a different manufacturing style, but it's a very similar looking module. So yes, and residentially, you're looking relatively, they're going to be 40 inches wide by about 65 inches tall. They're going to vary slightly from manufacturer to manufacturer depending on sizing and so on, but they're all trying to fit that size of a module and pack as many watts as they can into those. And what they do is they just make as many watts as they can, shove them in those modules, and try and sell them to the installers, and we pass them on to you. An interesting fact, it hasn't happened with both of these, either of these, but some of the modules we used to buy before, we would be buying 300 watt modules, and we'd buy a container of them. They come in and we'd unload them, and we'd notice that the modules were not 300 watts. They were 310 or 320s. So what happens is during the manufacturing process, they're designed to get to a certain wattage. So say they have a line that's making a 300 watt module, and all of a sudden at the end of the line, they're doing everything they can to increase efficiencies. At the end of the line, they do a flash test on every module and they spec it out. So some of them were flashing at 310 watts, so they put a 310 watt sticker on it, and we're still buying 300 watts. So it doesn't happen often, but many times we were putting up systems. Say you bought 20 modules and you bought 300 watt modules, and we are telling you that we're putting up a 6 kilowatt system, which is a 6,000 watt system. Some of these systems had, 30 times 20 or 30 times 10, you had another 300 watts on there, so it was a 6,300 watt system. It's pretty neat. It's a great benefit to the homeowner, and most times they don't even realize that. The inspectors will come out and inspect it, and they don't even realize it either. But you actually get a larger size system due to the manufacturing efficiencies that have rolled out. So it doesn't happen often. Usually you get what you pay for on the sizing. It doesn't get a larger size on those. So that's a great question. And then I have another one that here is relative to this. It says, what's the difference between the silver frame and the dark frame? So we talked about that last week a little bit. So behind us, again, we have a dark frame and a silver frame. Doesn't have any indication on what's inside the module. It has nothing to do with efficiencies. What you will see is commercially, you'll always see a silver frame because it's cheaper. When you start doing commercial and you start doing massive systems like solar farms out in the middle of fields, like 75 megawatts, like absolutely huge systems, you're not going to see dark frames because the dark frame is actually a little more expensive. So to have that aluminum, have that framing painted and or colored dark, it's a lot more expensive. But really, that's all there is to it. It's just a cosmetic look to it, to be honest with you. There's not a benefit having one or the other. So a lot of people now that they're starting to learn a little bit about solar, they understand that there's a silver frame, there's a dark frame. They just want to have the dark frame because it looks better. There's no efficiency difference on the framing. Now, if you want to get real, we can cut hairs here, and you can talk about the difference between the white back sheet and the black back sheet. Technically, and it's very, very small margins. The white back sheet, if it was compared apples to apples, it would take 100 modules to show you any difference, but the white back sheet is a little bit more efficient. And I can get into the science of that some other time, but I will say that most people don't even care. They just want the black on black. They want it as black as possible, and they want it to look like, on the front of their house, they want it to be beautiful. One solid color, make that color look as beautiful as they can. And some people tell me they want it to look like an iPad sitting on their house. They want it to be black with a black frame and all that stuff. And I'm like, all right. So we do have options. We have silver frames, dark frames. You can get anything on the market right now. So, so another question here, and we'll hit one more question. We're going to break quickly. But how do I decide the best product if the solar company only shows me one to choose from? So that's why you're watching this show. Watch this show. Ask us questions. If somebody comes out and shows you an inverter and they only have the one inverter, and they say this is the best inverter on the market, you can't get anything better, ask us. We'll tell you. I'll have that rep on here, or we can discuss the benefits of that inverter versus another inverter. We've got some here in the shop. We've got I can bring others here. I can get other all kinds of information. So if you get somebody that comes out to you and shows you one module, and of course that's the end all be all, it's the greatest thing out there, call us. get online, ask us the questions. We'll have you live on the show. We'll talk to you about the show or talk to you about the inverters if you want, or the modules, or whatever the product is they're pitching. But there's no one size fits all. There's no one product better than the other. There's generalization. I like certain modules and certain inverters in our climate that we're in, but there's no one size fits all. So it's never that way. I guess we do have time for one more quick question. It says, I don't like the looks of them. Do they come in different colors? No, they don't. They don't come in standard colors. You can't get them in fuchsia or terracotta colors to match your roof. I know there's a lot of terracotta colors and terracotta roofs in Florida. You can't ask somebody to paint something terracotta and attract the sun. These things are black for a reason. They're made out of black materials. They attract the sun when they're black. We want them to be dark as they possibly can. You don't want to paint them terracotta or gray. It just doesn't make sense. So no, they don't come in different colors. I've had, when I was doing pools at one point in time years ago, I was doing pool heaters. I had people asking me to do different color in pool heaters. You can get them extruded in different colors. They're not nearly as efficient because you want them as well. You want them to be black. You want them to attract as much heat as possible. So no, that's a great question. They don't come in college colors. They don't come in your favorite NBA color either. So anyway, again, check us out anytime on our website. It's solarpowerhour.solar. Check us out on Facebook, The Solar Power Hour, or call us anytime with any questions at 888-337-0937. We're going to take a short break. We'll come right back. We're going to size the system today. So look forward to having you right back here.
All right, this week we're going to talk about something exciting as usual.
We always have something exciting.
Yes, we do.
At least it's exciting to us.
But this is a question that comes up.
TV, hey, it is Friday night. We're not here. Yes, we pre-recorded once again because WeBeam TV is working over in Tampa with Dancing with the Stars.
62 Who Knew. I almost said Professional Mortgage Alliance, Joe's Bar and Grill, but actually it's our 39th week. 62 Who Knew.
We're at the wonderful steampunk event at the Verizon Event Center here in 2019. I think it's still August, right? Yeah. Woo! Can't remember anymore.
Yes.
To be able to help businesses to do that part of it. But it's just been a couple of years.
Well, and I've taken the business card files from our business card machine.
Entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay, welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections
Ian
for
Beckles on Radio Influence.
Or you say left hand white, and then they catch the left hand white. What it does, it helps you quick with hand-eye coordination. Yeah.
Well, that's kind
as your super connector. We want to introduce you to our 50-plus show partners. We got over 80 categories of expert contributor advice here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and we want to...
That's where we disagree, but that's okay.
I said nonviolent.
That's okay.
Because, you know, we're one of the only states that don't give them back the right. Got Jamie Limbaugh. He is from the Next Step Image. I love that name because you were telling me earlier.
For the type of republic we actually are is actually very correct. Yet politicians and regular people use these words interchangeably, even though technically they are very different.
If you're an overdoer, overachiever, people pleaser, we tend to neglect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And even as sisters connected here, you know, with Women Unscripted, I know.
Hey, welcome back to the Solar Power Hour. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode. I'd like for you guys to check us out on the Solar Power Hour on Facebook. Ask us questions, give us a like, follow us on there. We'd love that. You can call us anytime at 888-337-0937. or check us out on our website at thesolarpowerhour.solar. And if you can, check us out. We'd love to have you put some questions on there. My email on that website it's just simply Ringo at, it's my last name, it's RINGO, at thesolarpowerhour.solar. So when we get a chance, shoot me an email. There's a form on our website, and you can post anything you want on our Facebook. It's open for questions, comments. We look forward to having you ask any questions. Call us and leave us a message as well. So if you have any questions, anything about modules, inverters, how to put it on a ground mount, is tiles, whatever your questions are, just bring them to us. We can't wait to hear them. I've got some more questions we're going to go over later. I have been talking about sizing a system for a while, for the last couple of weeks, and we've never gotten to it. I've always gone through questions first. I'm going to flip that this time. I want to go through the sizing, because I think it's important. I think this is one of the most important things you can do. And we'll get to these questions here in a little while. We've still got about 6 or 7 of them. But what I want to do today is, everybody asked me, and I started my very first podcast, and everybody says, hey, listen, I've got a 2,400 square foot house. What's the solar going to cost me? I don't know. There's no way. My answer back to that, not to be smart alecky, is, but how much does a car cost? You can buy a $800 car. You can buy a $250,000 Bentley. I don't know if Bentleys cost that much, but it's a high brand cost, right? So the variation in costs in cars are exceptional, because they have different engines in them, they have different transmissions in them, they have different bodies on them, they have different reputation styles, they're more efficient, they're all that stuff. Well, if we look at the solar system the same way, your engine is your solar panel, your transmission is your inverter, and so on. There's so many variations, there's so many different sizes, there's so many different attachment processes, there's tile, there's ground mount, there's all this, there's sizing. And once you get to a huge size, the scale helps you, because it gets a little cheaper each module you put on. Not drastically, but you will see a savings once you get to a certain size. It starts going down price per watt, because they're already there. They're putting so many modules on the roof. So there's so many different ways of asking the question, but everybody says to me, what's my system going to cost? Listen, it's just 4 of us in the house. What's it going to cost? I mean, 4 people could live in a 1,000 square foot house or a 10,000 square foot house. 4 people could have a pool, a hot tub, 2 fridges. They could, be gamers and up all night long, and keep their, thermostat at 65 degrees in the summer and 85 degrees in the winter, or they could be the most efficient home, no pool, no jacuzzi. They're always very conscious about having their electricity bills as low as they can, so they're already working on that. There's no telling. You cannot say a 2,400 square foot home is going to be X. What I will say is, when we start doing, so when people come to us and ask us about a new home, listen, I want to start right off the bat. I got a new house. I'm constructing a house in, whatever city, whatever location. Here it is. It's a 1,500 square foot home. How do I size that? So what we have seen, and this has been fairly accurate, but it still leaves a little bit of, there's still never a complete accuracy with this, but usually the utility companies have an idea of what size that electric bill is going to be, how many kilowatt hours it will be for that house. A lot of your newer constructions now have very similar appliances. They have very similar energy usages and efficiencies built into that house. So they can say, typically, like this house we have projected to be a 1,500 kilowatt hour, because the utilities have to understand what's going to be downstream from one of their towers and all that kind of stuff. So they have to know the size that's going to be on their grid in that area, because the transformers and so on have to be sized perfectly to match that community and so on. So if they have 3, 4, 5, 6 new houses come in there, they have to understand what those houses, what the sizes of them are, and what the draw is, the system downstream. So if we have new builds, we often will call and ask the utility company, hey, we've got a 1,500 square foot home in there. What are you guys estimating this to be? And we'll size it that way. It doesn't happen often, but usually we're retro systems, and we don't usually do a whole lot of new construction. However, going forward, there's a lot of places mandating that you have to have solar going forward. California, Miami, there's, all over the country, you're going to start seeing more and more and more of new construction being required to have solar on it. That's going to change how fast we roll out solar in this country, I think. So one of the things we talked about last week, we talked about a podcast that I did over in Orlando a couple weeks ago on the real estate and how to evaluate and so on. So this is a little bit of a play off of that, but I want to go to, I have a screen up here, and I want to show you guys there's a sizing system that I really need you guys to understand how easy this thing is to use and how easy it is to get to. It's called PV Watts Calculator. The website, if you're listening, is pvwatts.nrel.gov. It's the National Renewables Energies Laboratory.gov. This is a government, obviously, sanctioned website. It's absolutely a fantastic sizing tool. Now, what you need before this is you really need to know your kilowatt hours you're looking for to reduce. So when you take your electric bill, I don't care the dollar amount. It doesn't matter if it's $50 to $500. It does not matter. What you need to worry about is your kilowatt hours, and this is what PV Watts Calculator does very, very well. So what you need to do is find your kilowatt hours. Again, throughout the country, our pricing per kilowatt is so much, it varies so much, state to state, even territories, areas, counties, and so on. They change dramatically throughout the country. So some places could be 35 cents, some places are 9 cents. It doesn't matter what the cost of the money or what your dollar amount is. Find out your kilowatt hours you use annually, and then we're going to go into this PV watts, and I'll show you a couple things in here. So we go to the PV Watts Calculator, and then on top of that, what we did here is, once you get to that, go ahead and click on there. And then we get started in here, and I selected a house in Houston, of all places. I just felt like going to Houston today. So what we did is I picked a house in Houston, and then when I started clicking through here, it's super easy. There's an arrow on the right-hand side. You click Houston, and then you click in here. What this will show you, and this screen is kind of, this is talking about the system info. Again, if you're listening along, this is a system info page on PV Watts Calculator. So it populates default systems or default values in here. So it always starts off with a 4 kilowatt DC system, and I don't know where they came up with the 4, but I don't know many people that actually put a 4 kilowatt system up. We've been trending upward in our area. We've been trending higher and higher systems all the time. It used to be we have about a 7 kilowatt system average. Now we're 11 to 15. We put in a 30 kilowatt system yesterday on a home, so they're getting bigger all the time. But so that DC system, it talks about the size, so that would be your kilowatt system. And then again, this is just to show you what you can do in your house, and this has no correlation to your actual electric bill. But what I'm going to show you is, just bear with me. We're going to go through this, and I'm going to show you what this will produce. So 4 kilowatt, I changed to 11, I think, on the next screen. But if we leave everything in here, leave this module type standard, leave the array, instead of it being open rack, what I do is I change that. There's a drop down that goes to fixed roof mount. So this is the defaults that I changed. I changed it to 11 kilowatt, which is 11,000 watt system. I left the module type as a standard because that's probably 90% of your modules. There's a premium module, but I honestly, even if I'm using a premium module, I always calculate as if it's a standard module, and that way I'm going to overproduce and I'm going to over deliver what I say I'm going to, and it's always the best thing for the customer and us. And then like I said, I make this to a fixed roof mount, especially if you're putting it on a roof. That's what you need to do. I leave everything else the same on the system loss. System loss, I think, is a little bit high, but it's saying at 14%. Leave that in there. You can click on if you want to. On the right hand side, there's information. You can click on all these, and then you have the tilt and azimuth. The tilt is the roof. If it's a 412, 512, 612, just you can figure that out. And there's a little information on there as well. But I have this roof being 20 degree tilt and 180 degree azimuth. So azimuth is literally compared to south, what direction is that roof facing? So 0 is facing straight north. That's not going to be a good production roof, right? So you want it to be 180, 185 is ideal because it's just right afternoon. Somewhere between 175 and 185 is ideal. 90 being due east, 270 being due west. Type in as best you can that calculation. So I'm going to show you what it produces. So that 11 kilowatt system in Texas is going to produce this many kilowatt hours. What it's doing is telling you AC energy monthly. It starts January through December, and it shows up, and you can print this out in a PDF. Actually, I would encourage you to, if you're ever going to have somebody come out to your house, have one of these sitting there. It shows them that you know a little bit about what's going on. They're not going to be able to come in and give you a hard time about, it's going to produce this much, that much. And if theirs is different, ask them why. This is the foundation for a lot of the calculations in the solar industry and anywhere that I've ever been. And I've only dealt with North American solar, so I don't know about what other countries are using. I would strongly urge you to have this at least in your back pocket. Understand what your systems should be able to produce. And if the guy or girl that's coming out to show you solar does not understand this or does not know where this came from, I would really question what they're doing there. I don't know that they should be in the industry if they don't know what this is. This is the foundation for all sizings in the country. So what this will show you, it'll show you the production that it can actually produce in AC in kilowatt hours, and then it'll show you roughly the value in that area because it takes in the utility bills and so on. So this system here, the 11 kilowatt system, is going to save about $1,700 annually. So that's what it's showing you. It's showing you that it's going to produce 15,409 kilowatt hours. So, and it shows a little bit of a range. There's a high and a low range there as well, but I always go with the one that's, the big bold one that's probably going to be the most accurate one. So one of the things that I did was, so if I take the 1690, keep in mind the $1,700, let's just say it's $1,700 a year. And then what I did was I charged $3 a watt, which is low on the low end for that system. And then this is a loan calculator that I have. This is one of the many providers that we have. But so I did a 20-year, 299-year loan. And what it does, it comes out and says, hey, this system's going to cost you $138 a month for the first 18 months, and then estimated adjusted monthly payment if you do not pay the 26% back. So how these solar loans have changed the world is they've made it to where you can put your tax credit back into the loan as a down payment, and then it allows you to extend these loans out for 20 years. And to be honest with you, that's what's helped fuel about 50% of this country's solar consumption. A lot of them are leased in PPAs and throughout the country, but a lot of people are starting to purchase and own the systems because it comes with the house if they're selling it. If you lease it or have a PPA is a power purchase agreement. It's very similar to a lease, and neither one of those options give you the tax credit. So you would essentially, somebody else gets the tax credit. It's on your house. They're leasing your roof space. What I tend to prefer is the person owning it, and it goes with the house. You get the tax credit. You can roll it back into a loan, or not. So back to that display here is you have $138 payment if you pay it for the first 18 months. If you do not pay your 26% down payment, it only goes up to $189. So you can decide what you want to do with that tax credit. If you need it for Johnny's braces or a new car, or you need to go on vacation, or you got a family emergency, you need that money, have at it, go with it. So what I did was I created an Excel spreadsheet, and for those of you who are listening on the podcast, shoot me an email, get a hold of us on our website, whatever you need to do, and I'll shoot you this calculation. It's a great little calculation. I threw it in Excel. Anybody can do this. It's a very simple format. So I took the $138 payment, and what I did was for 20 years, I showed what you're going to pay back, what your savings are, and your net profit on this system. And what I did was, so inflation is something you need to talk about on everything in this country, right? But on your utilities, you're going to have a percentage of inflation every year. So what I did was I put an inflation rate of 4%. So I just literally put it at 1.04, and then the first through 25 years. Now this is how long the warranty is, not the loan. So I should have actually stopped a little less than this, but I did this for the warranty of the product. So in the first year, it's going to be $140 a month, and I calculated that out. Now, for the year, it's going to be $1,680. Now, we talked about a $1,690 savings. So your first year is going to be a net zero. You're going to have no electric bills, right? So after that, the bills go up to $145 for your neighbor, not for you. You're still at $138. The next year is $151, and so on. It goes up 4% every year. And 25 years. The electric bill for your neighbor's house, if it's identical to you, is going to be $358, where it was $138 before, and your payment is actually zero because in 20 years you have the system paid off. This is the aha moment where I see a lot of people go, oh my gosh, this totally makes sense now. I never figured out why I would pay $50,000, $30,000, $60,000, $25,000 even for a solar system, because it sounds like it's so much. If you take the system and understand that inflation happens to everything, including electrical, your electrical delivery, so you have to pay 4%, and to be honest with you, 4% is actually low. Some people calculate 7%. I think that's high. And so what I have is I can shoot you this Excel spreadsheet if you want. You can make one just like this. It's really easy to replicate. This will show you, and there's calculators that are in every design tool that people are going to use for solar when they come to your house. There's all kinds of different tools that they use. There's programs that are in their CRMs or their customer management systems and so on. And then you also have these devices showing you what the ROI and showing you these profit savings and the 20-year payments. And you can do it in Excel before they get there. It's so easy. This is the great format. So what I want to show you is the 20-year payments is $33,000. Your savings is just under $70,000. Your profit is $37,000. So what I did was I just showed you the formula. If you're watching on TV, pause this, and you guys can pause it and check it out. All I did was, and you can see exactly what it was. I took the payments times 240. I took the savings as and so on. But if you wanted to change this inflation to a lower number, change it to 102 and then keep that number and all the calculations based off of that, and it'll show right down through there. So what you want to do is just create this Excel spreadsheet on your own. Do this. It takes no time at all. And again, if you're not good with Excel, if you don't understand it, if you're not good with it, shoot me an email. Let us know. It can look this simple, and it absolutely calculates very simply your savings over years and all that kind of stuff. This again is showing you the payment, and that payment doesn't change. The payment is set for 20 years or whatever. There are 10 years, 15-year loans. There's 12-year loans. There's 18 months, same as cash loans. There's all kinds of options out there. The most common one we happen to see is the 20-year and a 299, and that's what this is. This is a 20-year, 299-year loan. It's super easy. Once you do this, it totally makes sense why you would do solar. So you get the solar savings for 20 plus years. You're actually going to get it for 25 because the modules are warranted for 25 years and so on. So this is a no-brainer once I put this in front of people and show people this. And then we don't even talk about, and we'll talk about later, is how much value your house is going up. So anyway, we got to take a quick break. Thanks for joining us on the Solar Power Hour. We'll be right back.
All right, this week we're going to talk about something exciting as usual.
We always have something exciting.
Yes, we do.
At least it's exciting to us.
This is a question that comes up.
TV, hey, it is Friday night. We're not here. Yes, we pre-recorded once again because WeBeam TV is working over in Tampa with Dancing with the Stars.
62 who knew. I almost said Professional Mortgage Alliance, Joe's Bar and Grill, but actually it's our 39th week. 62 who knew.
We're at the wonderful steampunk event at the Verizon Event Center here in 2019. I think it's still August, right? Yeah. Woo! Can't remember
Yes. To be able to help businesses to do that part of it. But it's just been a couple of years.
Well, and I've taken the business card files from our business cards and made
Entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay, welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections
Ian
for
Beckles on Radio Influence.
Or you say left-hand white, and then they catch the left-hand white. What it does, it helps you quick with hand-eye coordination. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of...
As your super connector, we want to introduce you to our 50-plus show partners. We got over 80 categories of expert contributor advice here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and we want to...
That's where we disagree, but that's okay.
I said nonviolent.
That's okay.
Because, we're one of the only states that don't give them back a right. Got Jamie Limbaugh. He is from the Next Step Image. I love that name because you were telling me earlier.
For the type of republic we actually are is actually very correct. Yet politicians and regular people use these words interchangeably, even though technically they are very different.
If you're an overdoer, overachiever, people pleaser, we tend to neglect ourselves. And even as Sisters Connected here, with Women Unscripted, I know
Welcome back to the Solar Power Hour, and as always, give us a call. Whenever you get a question, whenever you have a comment on our show, please call us 888-337-0937, and or check us out on Facebook at The Solar Power Hour, or check out our website. It's thesolarpowerhour.solar, and or you can email me. My name is David Ringo. You can email me at ringo@thesolarpowerhour.solar. The reason we do this every week, man, we just want to educate you and make it to where you feel comfortable having somebody in your house talking to you about solar. Do you want to buy solar? Do you want to lease solar? Do you want to put it in the yard? Do you want to put it on your roof? All those kind of questions we can answer here. What's the best inverter? What's the best module? How do I do it? How do I size it? Who's the best contractor? What do they need? What licenses? What insurance? I can go on and on. All kinds of stuff come to mind. We've been doing this for a while. I love talking about solar. As you can tell, I love talking in general. I've had quite a few questions. We were going to go into some other stuff here. I have some other things we can cover, but I wanted to go over some questions we had. And some of these questions can take 15, 20 minutes on the answer alone, but I want to go through. I had a great question today come in last minute, and they said, and I had to write this on here. This isn't even on the printed out version of the questions, but they said, listen, man, I buy this solar system. I got this house. I got it on my house, and in 2 years I get relocated. And I want to take it with me and move the system with me. Does that make sense? And to me, again, I've been in the industry for a while, so I have a pretty calloused answer to this, but it's no. It's definitely not make any sense to move, and here's why. And I want to go through all the scenarios. Usually, when I'm in a house and somebody asks me a question, I don't answer them with a question. I will explain to them why I get to that point, and then they will say, oh, well, that doesn't make sense to move this system. On this show, I kind of blurt out answers, so please don't take it as abrasive or that I'm a know-it-all. I don't know it all. I'm always learning. As a matter of fact, on this show all the time, researching to get certain facts and stuff to put this show together, I learn all the time. So my approach is, on this show, it's going to be pretty abrupt compared to if I was in your house talking to you about solar. So when I say, no, it doesn't make sense to move, here, let me explain why and why I'm so arrogant with my answer. I hope you don't take it as arrogance. But if I come out to your system, your house, and say you live in Houston, Texas, I come out, and you've got a perfect shingle roof facing south, and you need a 10 kilowatt system. We install the system. You have no shade problems. You have no issues, and the system is sized perfectly. We get it up there, and you have no electric bill. It's fantastic. And say you get, let's say you get transferred to Dallas, Texas. Now, you're not going to commute. If you got a new job in Dallas, you're going to move from Houston to Dallas. Now you're going to move your family, your house, all that kind of stuff. So your options are, if you paid for the system in cash, let's just say that because that's the easiest thing here to talk about on this scenario. You paid cash for the system, and the system is producing exactly what you need to. You have no electric bill. So there's a couple things to consider here when you're moving. If you want to move that system with you, you're going to have to do a couple things. You're going to have to take the system down, which sounds really, obviously, rudimentary. That's going to be the first thing you're going to have to do. You're going to have to pay a solar company to come out, take it down. You're not going to have, a handyman or a roofing company can't come out and take it down. You're going to have a qualified, certified solar contractor come out and take that down. They're going to have to store it and or transfer it right over to your new house. And if it's not ready, they're going to have to store the materials, right? Because you can't store it in your house that you're selling or the one you're buying unless you own both of them at the same time, which is unusual. Then on top of that, when you take all that off your roof, like I said before, you're putting 4-inch lags in your roof usually. That's the most common thing. There's other attachments, but you're actually drilling into your house and actually attaching this to rafters and so on. So, so what you're doing is now you've got 4-inch lags you're backing out of your roof, and you're taking off this flashing and or all these attachments. These attachments are put down with adhesive that's got sealant on them. So when you're pulling these flashings up, we've had to replace systems. As a matter of fact, let me just go through this scenario. We have people putting new roofs on all the time. It's very similar to this question. When we take these flashings off that we put down 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, when you pull that flashing up with that sealant, it's tearing shingles off your roof because it's designed to do that. It's designed to stick to your roof and make sure that nothing gets behind it. Water-wise, it's water intrusion. So if you were to take these flashings off the roof, you're doing a lot more damage to your roof than what you can imagine. Then you're going to have it fixed. So are you going to have it re-roofed? Or you're going to have it repaired? If you have it repaired, the shingles are never going to match the colors. You can have the same shingles in your house, in your garage for 10 years. You've kept them for this reason. You put them up, they're going to look new. The rest of the house is going to look old. They're going to ask you, well, why don't we just get a whole new roof? That gets weird. Your inverter that's hanging in your garage or outside, you're going to have to take that off the wall. Sometimes that's going to leave a mark. If you've painted the house since then, that's going to leave a spot there. You got electrical wires going through the house that you're going to have to remove the conduit and all that stuff. It's just an unusual situation that somebody's wanted to move, and it actually makes sense. Because let's do all this, let's say you're prepared to do that and you needed to buy a new roof anyway. So let's just take that system down, put a new roof up on that house. Now I want to take this 10 kilowatt system with me to Dallas. Now you take it up there and guess what? You need a 7K on this house. So you actually you have way too much solar, and or you need a 20K. You have half the size that you need. It doesn't make sense to move it. What I tell everybody, if you're going to be moving and you bought the system with cash, keep it on the house. It's going to help you sell. It's going to help you sell for a better value. It's going to help you sell for quicker. It has, you have no electric bill. Every year that we go past with the inflation and so on, the sooner you have that thing paid off, the more value it's going to have every year compounding, because 3, 4, 5 years from now, it's going to have more value than it does this year. And it's going to go on and on and on. So I strongly urge people to leave the system on their house. You can move them if you want. If you're already prepared to do all that stuff, I get it. If you're going to put a new roof up on there anyway, that's fine. I have people that have moved to the area where we live, and they've brought the system with them. They had a trailer, they rented, they pulled it off the other house. They didn't care what they did to the other house, and they had it there, and we've installed it. We've done it. My whole thing is that it brings such a good value to the house that's already there. It's already part of that house. Leave it there. Let them enjoy the savings. Go buy another house and put solar on that and buy it again. Because when you sell that house, the first one, you should be getting your money back out of that house and out of that solar system. If not, call us. We'll hook you up with somebody that can help you out with evaluation and all that stuff. So again, that's a great question, and we can go into that so many different ways and so many different avenues. But in my opinion, it's worth it to leave it there. And I'm not just doing that to sell a system. I just think that it just brings so much more value to the people buying that house. They bought it. Maybe they buy it. Maybe they looked at your house and saw that it had solar on it. That's why they wanted it. So I personally believe leave the system on there and go to your new house. Have a new one sized for that house, the system, the attachments, and all that stuff for that house, instead of having your other specs just to go ahead and set on that roof. So that's a great question. I had that one come in last minute. So then I have somebody on here. Somebody asked how much does batteries cost to add to a system, and that's a loaded question, just like anything else. There's so many different manufacturers out there. But I want to talk about, because some people ask me the question I can't stand. I have a 2,400 square foot home. How much does solar cost? And then I tell them, listen, there's no way of doing that. And then they say, well, okay, fine. Well, how do the batteries work? Because I know when I buy a solar system, I have to have batteries to make it work. And actually, you don't. We've done probably 99% of homes without batteries. Very few people actually buy the batteries. In our area, the kilowatt hour is so inexpensive, and the grid, to be honest with you, is so reliable, other than a few storms throughout the year, that the batteries don't make a lot of sense. Where batteries make a lot of sense are in California or where your electric rates are extremely high. What they do is they charge those batteries throughout the day, and then when the price goes up at night and it starts peaking at 35 cents a kilowatt hour, you've been producing that power all day for free, and you charge it through your batteries, and then you use that at night when you're home, and you actually avoid using that 35-cent kilowatt pricing range. That's the best way to do it. So that's when batteries really make sense. There's two kinds of people that I've seen in our area that really want batteries, and that's somebody with that understand that batteries don't come with every system, because what you typically do is you'll use the grid for a battery. So net metering is probably the most common interaction with the grid. You get a solar system and it's net metered, so it meters what they put a bidirectional meter once you get the system installed. So it measures the electricity coming in that you use at night and when you're not producing more. But when you start producing more than what you're using, it goes back out the system, and then the meter turns the other way and it starts giving you credits. And it all depends. When I say credits, it starts tracking that. There are places that track it monthly, yearly. There's all kinds of different measures on that. So what happens is, I wouldn't really consider them credits, but what I do want you to understand is it starts measuring what you are producing and what you're using, and it starts putting a balance to it. Some places regulate whether they do it monthly, annually, or whatever, and how they do that. And some people actually give you cash credit for them. Some people don't. They just give you, they'll make it swap it back one for one. So all that stuff considered, the grid is actually the best form of a battery and a backup on the system. So now, if you want to start getting into batteries, batteries are truly for when you have no grid interaction. So the grid is actually down. You have no grid supplying you power, and you need something backup. Most of the country right now uses what? A generator. So they'll have a generator in the house. We've seen those for decades. Now you're starting to see a lot more batteries. There's different manufacturers out there. There's LG as a prominent one. Everybody knows the Powerwall by Tesla. Everybody understands that's a great marketing ploy there. There's a Sonnen battery. There's Enphase has a battery now. It's called Ensemble. There's many different forms of batteries, and they all do different things, and they have different powers and pricing and all that stuff. So just like modules, they all have different prices. But so if you're asking how much a battery costs, there's many different variations. There's fairly inexpensive batteries, and there's some very, very expensive batteries. They have different warranties. The more expensive batteries are used on the West Coast in California. Like I said, when you need to use that every single night, you need a high cycle warranty on these batteries. So there's a battery out there that has a 10,000 cycle battery guarantee on that battery. So it'll cycle all the way to zero and back up, fully charged 10,000 times on a full, it has a full warranty on that. That's impressive. Not all batteries have that. Some batteries have 6,000 or less, cycles on a warranty. The people that you're going to see that want to have battery backup, that's very important to them, is somebody with a medical condition. If you think about it, you got somebody in your house that needs oxygen, or they need some kind of medical equipment. It needs to be there. It needs to happen. You got to have power. Or their life is in danger. Obviously, that's the number one. And I'm not. Don't quote me on this, but I know that there are some places that you can get a tax credit on purchasing of that, and/or a grant or something along those lines to help you pay for those. Secondly, I know this sounds crazy, but people with saltwater tanks are the ones that we get most calls from. If you have a saltwater tank and you lose power for 2-3 days, they can lose thousands and thousands of dollars, because some of these people do this for a living. They'll sell coral that they're growing. They can break off a chunk of that, ship it somewhere for a couple $100. They're selling live coral. Some of their fish that they're reproducing, they're selling. They do the same thing with the fish. They're making money off the coral, the fish, and so on. And then there's other people that are either day traders or people that are doing stuff with computers online that they can't have their computer, and/or some people have a server in their house. They can't have those go down. So they're the ones that will contact us about batteries more often than not. So, excuse me, the biggest question about batteries is there's a huge cost difference on all those, and we can talk about that on another show, but there's many different people that use batteries, but mostly in the area that we're in, our grid is actually our battery, because during the night, when you're not producing electricity, you're pulling it from the grid. During the day, and you're producing power, you're pushing it on the grid. So it's most people need to visualize their grid, especially if it's a net metering friendly area, state, wherever you're at. Most of the time, your grid is the best battery system you have. You're pushing power on it, you're pulling it away at night, you're using it, and it's an even one-for-one swap. It's a great situation here. That's the best battery system to have, to be honest with you, because it doesn't cost you anything. So we also have another couple questions here. What's the next big thing in solar? And I love that question, and it's a really loaded question too. But I will say this: we just talked about batteries. We've talked about inverters. We've talked about how to attach to roofs. We've talked about panels. We've talked about everything. The next big thing in solar, undoubtedly, no question about it, is going to be storage. When I talk about storage, it's very similar. We just talked about batteries. That's what I'm talking about. It's going to be, how do we store this power? And I can get into a whole show length of a conversation on this, but we only have a few minutes here. But when we start talking about what's the next big thing in solar, it's going to be, how do we store all this power that we create? And I just talked to you about how expensive the batteries are. There's going to be some way, somehow, someday it's going to be a lot less expensive than it is now. That's the next big thing. Somebody's going to come out with the right technology that's going to be a lot less expensive and a lot more powerful. I'm not saying that what is out there is too expensive now. It's all depends on the application that we have on those. The next big thing is storage. It's going to be a national situation at some point in time, because you start thinking about how many people have gone solar. Let's just say that, a tenth of the country, let's just say a county, pick a county that you live in. Say 50% of that county goes solar. That's a huge number, first of all. But say 50% of that county goes solar, and the other 50 is paying full price on the electric bill. The grid needs to be maintained by everybody, because the grid, whoever the utility is, they have 100% of people to take care of, and they're getting money from 50%. So what's going to happen in the future is you're going to have a grid. It's going to be a grid maintenance company that's going to be taking care of everything. You're still going to have utility companies providing some electrical services, but you got to start thinking about how we're going to start storing your power that you're making and using it at your house, because at some point in time the discussion is going to be had that who knows how this country is going to look with their grid and so on. So we got time for one quick question here at the end. We're about out of time. It says, somebody asked, do I need to rewire my entire house for solar? No, you're not going to rewire your house for solar. What you're going to do is, if you have to redo anything, it might be your main service panel. So your main service panel, your main breaker is not the one. You could have a sub panel inside your house. You may not even have to touch that. It's the main service panel where you have the main breaker where you can turn everything off. That system itself may need to be upgraded. There's different sizing rules for solar, and there's all kinds of stuff on the NEC codes that we have to do nationally, locally, and so on that you have to go through. But the solar company, the electrical company doing your solar project will be able to walk you through that. You do not have to rewire your house. Your house does not change, and your electricity that you're using, that you see coming in to charge your laptops and run your refrigerator and air conditioning, it doesn't change. It still doesn't. You don't notice a difference. It may be from your solar system or not. But anyway, that's it for today's show. We're running out of time. I had some more questions to get to. We'll start off next week with those. But thanks for joining us this week on the Solar Power Hour. Again, my name is David Ringo, your host. Call us at 888-337-0937, or check us out on Solar Power Hour on Facebook, or our website at thesolarpowerhour.solar, or email me at ringo@thesolarpowerhour.solar. We look forward to answering any questions you guys come up with next week. Check us out on WeBeam TV too, WeBeamTV.com. Check us out on there. It's really fun. There's a plug for it there. So if you're listening to us, we appreciate it. But get a hold of us, ask some more questions. We had quite a few that we didn't get to all of them this week. I'll put some of them on Facebook and answer those. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on our website, and give us a call, or check us out on WeBeamTV.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.